Hello ladies and mental gen, I am back. You might be wondering what the fuck were you doing the last month or so? Well, obviously I was chasing the dream of becoming a Hollywood superstar with pretty good success actually, as you can see. But in the end I decided that being a salty asshole over a video game is much better than being an international Hollywood superstar. So I am back. In all seriousness though, I was just burning out of making YouTube videos. I was burning out on World of Tanks and life in general, and as YouTube pays as much as collecting bottle caps for the future apocalypse, then obviously YouTube got cut first, and I was just doing the rest of my things as usual. But I am back, and hopefully we can make some schedule happen in September. Also, I know you don't give a shit about Twitch because you're on YouTube, but we are doing a 30-hour live stream this weekend, aka in an hour. So if you want to tune in for that, feel free to do so. Today we are talking about 9.20. Just a fair warning. If you can read and you have read 9.20 patch notes, this video might not be too interesting for you, as that is pretty much what I'm gonna be doing. Also, obviously, spitting out my opinion every once in a while. So let's get started. Alright, so here we go. New features. Grand battles are in the game. I played like 4 of these and then I unchecked them from the menu, so I never have to play them ever again. I found it extremely shitty. I found the map to be terrible. There is so many fucking camping TDs on that map. It's just ridiculous. There is around 3 tunnels, you could say, on that map, and then everything else is a no man's land because you're gonna get shot by a stealth TD from somewhere. So any kind of flanking isn't really gonna happen unless you win one of those tunnels, which requires a solid team effort, and generally all the tunnels are hulled down, heat spamming paradise for heavy tanks. So generally I found the game mode extremely unfun and just shitty, so I just unchecked it. I probably will give it another chance in the future, but it's gonna be in a while. We'll probably have a separate video for this though later, so yeah. Let's just skip over this for now. Also, all the medals obviously have been reworked for that shit as well, of course. And then we have this paragraph here, which is very nice. Introduce terrain-related changes for how to reach areas in the following maps. So, aka what I call boosts, which a lot of people say are not really boosts, but are just climbs. Whatever you want to call it, it is being removed with a bad consistency because... Where's Redshire? Where is Redshire? That boost is like one of the most common ones. I mean, I appreciate all of these being removed. I didn't even know most of them probably, but where's Redshire? That fucking Swedish TD boost there in the corner is the most broken shit ever and really commonly used as well. And it's not being removed. Why? I guess because fuck you, that's why. It's a weird oversight, to be honest. Alright, let's go to changes to vehicles, aka all the balancing stuff. So we have the VK Let's Break Tier 8 even more premium tank added for the super testers. And we have some nerfs on the mouse, so the gun gets a reload nerf and the hit points get reduced to 3000. Also, there is a nerf to the mouse where they're nerfing the underbelly armor from 250 to 50, but somehow that made it into bug fixes instead of mouse balancing. Because, blech, it was bugged that we gave mouse armor, blech, but then we didn't fix it for many patches until this patch, because it was bug, not feature. Da, blech. It's weird. I don't know what the fuck is this again. Anyways, move up to the Jagdtiger 88. Buffed the soft stats by 6% on the traverse of the gun and the hull, and buffed the traverse a bit. I have never played the Jagdtiger 88 in my life. I never want to play the Jagdtiger 88 in my life, and I don't really think that this is gonna be a thing that makes the Jagdtiger stand out among the rest of the premiums, really. So, yeah, nothing too special here. Alright, so then we have the full branch of Chinese tank destroyers that I will be playing through. Well, not fully. I'll probably start at tier 6 and grind up all the way to tier 10 in this weekend, aka in an hour. So if you want to hear my opinion on all of these, you probably should check in the later stages of the stream. It probably will take me like 16 to 18 hours to finish this, depending on how fast it goes. They are an unturned TD, so not really looking forward to it, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. All right, next up we have the Soviet tech tree. We have a T44 lightweight added for super testers. No fucking clue what even is that, so I'm not really gonna say much about it. All right, so T54 first prototype, 9% buff on the suspension soft stats, 25% buff on the turret soft stats, aiming time buff to 2.2, view range buff to 380, improved turret as well. We'll probably look into more of that when we do a review on this in the future. Penetration buff by 7. This goes to all the 100mm Russian guns, and premium ammo pen to 247. Also, the depression gets buffed to -7, and the ammunition capacity gets improved from 34 to 56. So this is a massive buff, absolutely huge. Definitely puts it more on the map of the tier 8 premiums. Is it good enough to compete with like Scorpions, Defenders, Patriots, Liberties, and stuff like that? I don't think so, but I think it is solid enough to compete with tanks like the STA-2 and, you know, stuff like that, like, you know, the 240 Alpha tanks, 250 Alpha. This is definitely going to be among the top, together with the T44 100, because this is generally getting the same buff around the place. It also gets a reload buff to 7.5, which is pretty nuts for a tank like this. So this is again gonna be competitive with tanks like STA-2, but I don't think it's gonna compete with tanks like, you know, the ones I mentioned before. And the T44 pretty much gets the same buffs as well. They are doing some silly buffs here with the 122 gun, which nobody gives a shit about. Reload from 19.2 to 15.2, still way worse. Well, no, it's probably similar to the T34-3 now. Fun fact to mention here, Russian mediums get buffed. The worst medium in the game, the T34-2, of course doesn't, because fuck China. It's China. Fuck 'em. So, you know, that's great. So now we have the T54, controversial change to this tank. A lot of people were calling it a nerf. I don't call it a nerf. It's definitely a buff to this tank. So what is happening? Basically, the gun that everybody's using, the Heat Spammer's Paradise gun, is getting very inaccurate and is having a really bad aiming time added to it. But they're making the other gun more accurate with much better aiming time, but worse DPM. So yeah, this 100mm, the D10 T2S, aka the gun with 200 pen, is pretty much unusable now. It is just generally so bad on the aiming stuff that it is unusable, and the DPM here doesn't mean anything if you cannot hit anything without aiming for half a year. So I will just generally talk about the other gun. The D54 is the gun to use now, and it is reasonably accurate. It does not have the greatest DPM in the world though anymore, but at the same time it's a good gun that is able to dish out consistent damage, and the base pen of 219, I believe it is, also makes it more viable choice when you're not just running around spamming full premium. Also, the stock guns get the pen updates, obviously from the T44s, and the Heat Spammer's gun gets one more degree of gun depression. I still don't think this gun can be usable. Maybe with the consumables and like a dope crew, this can be serviceable, but I don't ever see myself using that gun ever again. Alright, let's move up. Oh yeah, also obviously the turret got buffed, and the hull apparently did as well. Again, we'll talk about the armor changes of separate vehicles when we actually do the reviews on them. I only played like a couple of games, so I don't have like a full opinion on this just yet. Alright, so the IS-7 gets a better engine and some soft stat buffs on the movement and the gun by 25%, which is pretty big, and then it also gets an aiming time buff as well, and it gets 2.4k hit points. So IS-7 is a tank that always had good aiming time, even though on paper it's 3.1. In reality, it's really solid right away. You don't have this ginormous aiming circle that you get on German medium tanks. IS-7 is like reasonably accurate without aiming, and then it gets a bit more reasonably accurate. Not by a lot, but you know, snapshotting with IS-7s always is a thing that you can do, and it's generally not too bad unless you're going full speed, and then it can be pretty bad. But overall, the IS-7 already has a pretty snappy gun that isn't horrible. It doesn't aim for shit, but the starting accuracy of this gun generally is pretty good, and that got even better, and the tank got faster, and let's not forget that you cannot beat the hull down IS-7, so there probably is going to be some things that just cannot be countered, that IS-7s are going to just dominate, but again, more testing is required. I don't think can really stand up to the mouse unless you're full premium mode in a good position, then I guess you can, but yeah, we'll see about the IS-7 potential in the future. ISU 152 loses the what is it called, the BL10. Also gets a new 152 gun added. Pretty much the difference here is that I think you lose like 20 penetration, and it also kind of messes up the tech tree stuff. So the research costs get more expensive here, but they get cheaper for the 268. The 704 gets the ISU's gun as stock as well. So nothing really changes apart from some namings. Well, pretty much this gun gets added and the BL10 gets removed from an ISU. The BL10 is still present on the 704, so not really much changes. This 268 research cost goes down way down, so that's something, I guess. 268 gets a traverse angle improvement to 11 degrees from initial like 6 or 7, so this is a pretty big deal. And the shell velocity gets increased to serviceable 950 meters a second. So quality of life improvement for the tank, but I don't think it's really relevant enough to make any difference and put the 268 on the map of any sort. And then we get to the 140 buff on the turret roof. This is pretty much explained in a simple sentence. So I will impersonate somebody high up in the wargaming ranks here. Hey, balancing comrades, blять! I play my 140 because I don't have 907, and 907 just better, blять. Can we buff 140 so 140 as good as 907, blять? Ah, da, comrade, da, don't worry, I do everything. No worry that the 140 already most play tank, let's buff 140. Good idea, blять. That is probably what went down in the wargaming meeting when they decided to buff the Object 140. Alright, let's move down the list. There is a lot of these changes, and I'm skipping over a lot of them as well, but you know. Let's go to the US&A M46 pattern, improved armor on of the turrets. So, a tank that is known to be, or at least was known to be, like the stat pattern is Wet Dream, load full APCR, and you have solid DPM, really good gun handling, penetration isn't an issue. So very solid tier 9 medium tank for, you know, doing whatever you want. And now they buffed the turret, which makes it pretty much better than an E50M. Even though it's a tier 9, it is just an E50M, but better because the armor is on the turret and not the hull. So I find this kind of weird, again out of place. I guess all the idiots cannot handle an M46 the way it is, or they just not spamming enough premium ammo with it, so you know they had to go ahead and buff that as well. Then we get to the M48 A1 pattern, so we get rid of all the stock guns, which is nice, all of their ammo as well. Improved turret armor, again, haven't really seen too much of it in work. I mean, generally the cupola got much smaller, so that's a nice improvement of life. Also, the research cost got higher, but because you skip the stock guns, that's actually an improvement of quality in life. Also, it kind of eliminates the stock grind, so they don't have to. You don't have to fuck around with this with wild stock, so you don't have to spend free XP and shit like that. All right, let's go to the French changes. So these are probably the biggest ones out there. So the 155 gets placed as a reward gift vehicle, so it's not a premium. You can use any TD crew in it, but it doesn't make more credits, and it gets buffed a bit as well. And then we have the AMX 50 Foch B introduced, aka the same thing with the 120mm gun with 6 shots and around 30 something second reload. So flat out just 10 times better. Slightly broken in certain situations. It is situational though. It cannot play hull down like none of these garbage TDs can. But on a flat ground, this thing just chews through enemies, and it has really high DPM as well. So situationally broken, in my opinion, maybe a bit overpowered, but definitely not a good addition to the game. These kind of autoloaders always just ruin everything, as we saw with the Buffalo, but you know, it would be weird if Wargaming learned from their experiences. So we get a 6-shot autoloader back at tier 10, which is just sad, I guess, but we'll try to see what this shit is more all about in upcoming future, I guess. So 5100 gets the gun depression buff to 9 degrees on all of its guns. Nice quality of life improvement. 5100 is in need of buffs even after this. Like, it does not compete with a Lorraine whatsoever. It is too clunky. The autoloader is too slow. The gun aim's too slow. So I don't think this thing is back on its pedestal when it used to be like a couple of years ago. But it definitely, you know, appreciates the gun depression changes. So the AMX 1375 gets the ammunition buff to 44 from 42, which is a huge deal. I mean, the only thing that makes sense here is that, you know, now you have, 11 full clips instead of 10 and a half. Batchet gets the same buff. I think this is the same gun. No, it's not the same gun. I don't even know. But generally, the French light tanks and the Batchet AP gets their shell count increased, which is nice. They did tend to run out of ammo on the bigger maps quite a lot. Then we have to go to the AC-48. Generally, across the board, the French TDs get the accuracy nerfed, the aiming time buffed. This is actually quite hilarious. The gun stats, or the aiming time, got buffed by 42%. 40-fucking-2%. That is hilarious. And the funny thing is, the aiming time isn't still even all that great. It is definitely serviceable now, but I still recommend using a gun length drive on this. And it's just funny to see how bad the old versions of this was, that you can buff it by 42% and give it an autoloader. Like, what the fuck, dude? Also, this gets an autoloader. 3 shots, 120, 3 shots on the 120mm gun. It reloads in around 30 seconds. Most of these do reload in around 30 seconds. They just change the amount of shots they have at each tier. Aiming time gets buffed as well to 2.7. Improved hull armor. Not really sure what I did to it. Not too much. Obviously, this has huge weak spots on the top, so it doesn't really matter all that much. Also, a bit of an improvement in the shell capacity. I don't think this makes any difference whatsoever. I will find it really hard to believe that you can shoot even half of this ammo out during a 15-minute game. Anyways, moving up to the 50 Foch, the tier 9 one. Again, a lot of soft stat buffs across the board. The gun this time gets buffed by 30%. And still, it is not the greatest thing ever. Accuracy gets nerfed a bit. It's still not too bad at 0.35. And this gets a 4-shot autoloader, I believe. So similar to tier 10 autoloading heavy. Sorry, well, you could say tier 9 autoloading heavies, as this does reload in around 3 or 30 seconds. And then the aiming time gets decreased actually to 2.5 seconds. So again, gun length drive is a good option to use on this together with vents and binos, or optics if this can afford it. I don't remember. Again, ammunition capacity buffed, completely useless, and hull armor buffed. I don't know what I did, but again, not really relevant as the weak spots are very easy to hit. And then we get to the 155. Gets a new radio, gets a new engine. I'm not even sure if these are more powerful or not. Improved hull armor, again, a bit irrelevant. Traverse angles increased to 10 degrees. That is nice. With the terrible aiming time of the 15 centimeter, this was a really big pain in the ass with the narrow gun traverse. You had to re-aim a lot, which crippled your ability to lay down fire at any kind of range, generally, with any kind of precision, that is. Also, gun elevation changes plus 18. That is definitely an improvement of life. You definitely ran into situations where the 12 degrees just wouldn't cut it. Gun depression also changed to -6, which is nice. Changed the purchase of of the vehicle to 5 gold. Not sure why it's at 5, but I guess it doesn't really matter. And the vehicle now is an event vehicle. I guess they call them that now. Alright, whatever. Alright, let's move on to the French medium tanks. Jesus, there's a lot of changes. This is gonna be a long rant, man. Alright, so a lot of self-stat buffs by around 10 to 12% on, I imagine, both the suspensions and yeah, well, movement and traverse gets buffed. Accuracy change, well, nerfed from 0.32 to 0.37. The Well, I guess that's the stock turret, or is that the top turret? I mean, either way, I guess this is the top turret. Whatever, accuracy gets nerfed to 0.37, but the dispersion gets buffed to by 40%, which is again huge, and 30% on the stock turret. The reload gets buffed to 8.7 seconds, which is pretty nice. Improved armor protection on the turrets. I think this generally only cuts it for the gun mantlet. The stuff around the gun mantlet is still quite cheese, but still improvement of life nevertheless. And there's the big problem with these. The pen gets nerfed to 248. The tier 9 is not that big of a deal, but on the tier 10 definitely can be. And the heat pen gets nerfed from 320 to 300. Oh no. Oh no, now you won't be able to pen that super angled mouse. Oh no. Huge nerf here. Oh my god. Poor heat spammers. Decrease the velocity of the shells for the heat ammo. Again, poor heat spammers. Similar things happen to the AMX30B. Gets buffed. Well, the suspension gets buffed. The accuracy gets nerfed. It's not terrible at 0.36, but it really feels terrible. Plus the lack of pen now as well will be pretty sad. The dispersion of the gun gets buffed by 33%. Again, a massive buff to a tank that already had the best soft stats in the game, or among the best soft stats on this parameter in the game. So this is pretty much as accurate as it can be with, well, as fast aiming as it can be, I guess. Reload gets buffed to 7.8 seconds, and the aiming time gets buffed to 2 seconds. Improved turret armor, a bit more relevant on this tank as it does have that huge, ginormous cupola that didn't get changed like it did on the Patton. So the armor buffs on this are not that relevant. And then we have the same penetration nerfs and the same velocity changes. So the problem with this generally is that, I mean, it can compete. Definitely, it's not a bad tank. It's different. You say it's different, but from the most accurate tank, it becomes like a fast or a crossover between a Patton and the STB1. STB1 is completely outdated now, but I still think I prefer that in the tier 10 games. Just the added gun depression, the smaller target will make it better at trading, plus the penetration of the STB will definitely be something worth noting. So while the 30B is a bit more interesting than it used to be, but I don't really like the way this tank went, so definitely will be crossed out of my favorite tank list for sure. Then we get to the... what even is this? No, just some life changes for the tier 10 tank destroyer. You can read that if you care about that, I guess. But what else do we have here? AMX 50 Foch gets an autoloader, obviously, and so does the 48. All equipment is demounted for free and sent to the depot. And then we have the Japanese changes. Oyo Experimental loses the gun, loses all of its ammo, obviously. Gets worse turret traverse, increased armor on turret and hull. Not sure how much this changes things. I mean, it's just weird that they would buff armor on tanks that already, like, complained about the amount of armor they have. But it gets way slower, so I guess there is something. Oi gets a decreased hull armor and turret armor. I believe this is only on the back of the tank. At least somebody said that to me. I haven't actually bothered to check. Definitely a needed change. I mean, it's just sad that you cannot pen an ass of an Oi with some tier 6 and 7 mediums. So that is nice. Oh-Ho gets a new AP shell, I guess. I think that is for the derp gun. I'm not actually fully sure of this, so I will not comment on this a lot. Gets a turret traverse nerf as well. And increased armor on the hull and the turret, because fuck everybody asked for them to buff Japanese armor on the armor on the Japanese heavy. That was something that everybody asked for. Type 4 heavy gets a suspension nerf for the traverse by a pretty significant amount, and the what is that? No, that's the stock suspension. All right, the top suspension gets nerfed as well, and the traverse gets nerfed by 1 degree. Huge changes, huge. Well, the suspension nerf is pretty big, but the turret, I don't even know why they bother. Type 5 heavy, again, same nerf to the traverse, and same nerf to the turret traverse, and decreased thickness of the hull armor. In reality, they added 2 tiny weak spots that are only really gonna be ever penned by a premium ammo. So, really makes no fucking difference. Alright, so we have some HD vehicles, a lot of RD, because everybody wants that HD RD. Finally, we get a bat shot though, so there is something. This took like 2 years to get the bat shot, but it's finally here, so, you know, I guess there's something to be happy about. Still missing an STB1 from this list, but at least we get the M12 in HD, which everybody again asked for. Also, T69 is in HD, which is pretty cool. T4485. This is a T4485. I thought it's a T3485, but that is in HD probably for a while. I don't even know what this vehicle is, but apparently it's in HD now, so that's nice. Alright, so ranked battles. I don't really care about ranked battles at all, so I'm not even going to bother to read any of that. Improved equipment can now only be demounted only with bonds. That's a pretty big change. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, all of the improved equipment gets demounted though, so you don't have to worry about that. Crew stun mechanics. So now if you're behind solid cover, you shouldn't get stunned as much. And it will depend on how much your tank is sticking out from the cover and stuff like that. So, you know, there's some kind of improvement in life when it comes to getting shit on by RT, which is always nice. What else do we have here? Directive stuff that nobody really uses directives, I imagine. Then we have the fixes. Some fixes that are just general bugs that I've never come across. And then we have that hilarious mouse fix. Fix the issue where the mouse underbelly armor decreased from 250 to 50. That is so funny that it is in fixes instead of the mouse balancing changes. Yeah, it's just funny, man. Alright, what else do we have here? Improved layout nodes in contact list, added information acquired, vehicle rank view, well, whatever. And yeah, there's some known issues as well that I don't really care about. I missed one thing though that is quite important. You can actually get bonds now in full tier 10 games. You get around 4 bonds for 400 base XP, and 400 base XP is the minimum you need to get to you know, earn any bonds, and then it gradually goes up. You get around like 12 or 13, or well, around 11 or 12 for 1k base XP, and it kind of goes up. Like if you get 1400 base XP, I imagine you're gonna earn around 20 bonds or even more. So that is pretty cool. A lot of people are saying like, well, it's kind of forces people to play the expensive tier 10 games to earn the bonds, and you know, you could see it, but you could also see them just wanting to promote people playing tier 10, and I think it's better that you can earn bonds by just playing the game instead of playing the ranked mode, which I found rather cancerous. So yeah, overall, majority of the changes are positive. I don't think it really fixes any of the game's issues. I found the Grand Battles to be absolutely atrocious, but the good thing is I can just tab out of them and never play them again in my life. A lot of the buffs could be called questionable, but I guess we'll see with time if they actually were questionable and if they're gonna change all that much in the game. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this reading of the patch notes, because this is really what it was. And I'll see you guys on the next one.